working for you. This is your Wave 3 weather forecast.
Hi, everybody. Kevin Harnett and the Wave 3 weather team with you, working through the overnight hours as we continue to anticipate this line of storms to our west to push into the Louisville area within the next 2 hours. It will be bringing some strong winds to places. Right now, no watches or warnings locally, but due to the nature of timing on this, moving through in the overnight hours and a lot of folks wanting to get some sleep tonight, we're going to be on here for the next 5 to 7 minutes with an extended weather report for you so you know and have a firm handle of what's going on back out to the west of us and what we expect to move our way. So stick with us over the next few minutes. We're going to run through all of the details on what we know and what we expect, and then we'll be here through the overnight watching this line approach. First of all, now in Louisville and across our area, most of the rain that had been with us with that warm front passing by is pushed to the east. Our temperatures continue to rise. We're not far from 60 degrees here in Louisville, a fairly unstable and a highly sheared environment that we're in, and you can see back out to the west of us, that's where we have this squall line ongoing. Notice the difference between the top part of this line and the bottom part. It's much more sporadic to the north, very isolated as far as any type of major severe weather ongoing. However, you work your way further to the south across southwest Indiana into western portions of Kentucky, and that is where we have the embedded tornadoes, and in fact, tornado warning now in effect for Callaway County down into Murray, Kentucky, and you can see that's just south of the Evansville area as you work your way across far western Kentucky. Eventually, this line of showers and storms will be working its way off to the east, and we do anticipate that several places in southern and central Kentucky and maybe as far north as the Ohio River and parts of southern Indiana would see some of this severe potential, and that would include some very strong winds. Keep in mind, you don't have to have tornadoes to see wind damage, and that's the main threat. Winds of 50, 60, 70 miles per hour with some of these storms. Now, that's what we're looking like on the radar view at this time. I'm going to just zoom out a bit and show you what's going on as far as watches and warnings go. The orange colors here indicating severe thunderstorms. The red boxes down here indicating the tornado warnings just south of the Mayfield area, pushing over toward the Murray, Kentucky area. That's right along the Kentucky-Tennessee border. Again, I mentioned our whole team was here. Lauren Jones and Brian Good in the Weather Center. Lauren, let's start with you and let's time it out for folks that may be watching saying, hey, when's it going to hit my backyard?
That's been the big question, Kevin, really all day long before these storms even got here, and we've continued to fine-tune the forecast. Again, an hour-by-hour look at when these storms will arrive in your area. And our latest thinking is that anytime after midnight, really starting to see the main threat for these storms to work into parts of western Kentucky. Again, this is what we're seeing as we continue to look at our warning map, our watches, and the timing of this system anytime after 12. So as we start to head throughout the remainder of the midnight hour, starting to see that squall line influence much of western Kentucky, pushing into central Kentucky as early as 2 o'clock in the morning. Again, that would include areas along the 65 corridor. That does include the metro area as well. So really 1 to perhaps 3 a.m. the big time frame for that. We expect this squall line to push off to the east as we head into the 5, 6 o'clock hour. And again, we'll start to see the threat for any significant strong to severe weather decrease at this time. And Brian, a big effort we have been doing here with the weather team, updating all of the social media, warning people to have their NOAA radios handy as the system continues to head in our direction. So any new updates now, anything we're getting in that could be helpful to the viewers?
Yeah, right now a lot of folks are wondering, the watch situation, are we going to see a watch issued or not? And right now they are in talks right now at the Storm Prediction Center to see if one will be issued. So even though if a watch is issued or not, it doesn't really matter. The point is, we can still get some warnings along this line as it moves through. A lot of you are awake right now. You're on Facebook and you're chiming in, and we appreciate that. We're going to be on here trying to answer as many of your questions as we can as we head into the next little bit. So again, we're going to be on Facebook. We're going to be on social media, on Twitter as well. As soon as the warnings are issued there, it'll be instantly posted to our page. So if you haven't been to our Facebook page, Wave 3 Weather, go ahead and like the page and you'll get those warnings right away. And for the most part, Kevin, we're talking about the chance here for still some intense winds with this. I just got a report in a few moments ago about 60 to 65 mile per hour wind in West Kentucky. We got Christian County, the Hopkinsville area, now under severe thunderstorm warning. So they're still packing quite a punch as they move, especially along and south of Interstate 64, it looks like. Well,
it's important to note that we've had wind damage out of those storms. Even a mobile home has had its roof blown off across West Kentucky. There are a number of areas along this line, and it is embedded. I mean, you'd have to really look at some isolated areas here to see where we have those strongest pivot points in those storms, and that's where we're seeing the very strong winds of 60 to 70 miles an hour. So the deal is, we don't want to scare you tonight, but the bottom line is this line has to move through our area. Will it be as strong as it is now by the time it gets here? That's the million-dollar question. I think it will weaken some, but I still think that we have the potential here in Louisville, and here we are in the city. Southern Indiana, far less potential to see severe weather. From Louisville across, say, down to the Elizabethtown area, there's still a chance to see some very strong winds. We're still about 100 miles away as far as that storm goes. You can see on the distance tracker here 102 by the time that storm arrives here, moving at about 50 miles an hour. It puts it here in about 2 hours. We're looking close to that 2 o'clock time frame. If it bows out a little more, would expect it to speed up in its forward movement, and with that, it may arrive just a little earlier. So we're saying between 1 and 3 o'clock in the morning for its arrival time here in Louisville. Points further to the south certainly have the greatest threat for that severe weather. It's ongoing now across portions of West Kentucky and southwest Indiana. Madisonville, you'll be in line for some strong storms. Greenville, likewise, pushing over toward Beaver Dam. This is over toward the land between the lakes. Further to the north along I-64, as Brian mentioned, there's still a threat, though it becomes a little more marginal further to the north. With that, we will continue to track this line of storms. It's not out of the question that we're going to have some strong storms here in Louisville, but yet it's not 100% guaranteed. I would recommend that you stay with us through the overnight. You may want to keep the television on. You may want to have a NOAA weather radio handy. If that alarm goes off, be sure to tune in. We're going to be here all night keeping an eye on this with the nighttime hours, and as these storms continue to approach, it makes it very dangerous simply because of the potential threat it has. It's our commitment to be here with you through the overnight hours, and that's exactly what we'll do, both on television, on radio, 84 WHAS, and online at wave3.com, and of course our Facebook pages. We'll go back to Lauren before we go, and Lauren will recap again the arrival time here in Louisville between that 1 and 3 o'clock time frame.
Yeah, Kevin, and that's really what everybody has been asking. When are these storms going to get in our area? And as you just pointed out on Stormcutter HD radar, the leading edge of this system already affecting parts of western Kentucky, all the way from Vincennes into Evansville, into Madisonville. The leading edge of that line continuing to bow out. We'll start to see those winds pick up in advance of that. Again, 1 to 3 a.m., the best time to see that line of strong to severe thunderstorms in parts of the Louisville metro area. That does include really areas along the 65 corridor from Seymour to Louisville down to E-Town, around the Litchfield area. And then, of course, after that, we'll start to see this system work off to the east, expecting it to clear the entire viewing area as we head into the 6 o'clock hour. And so certainly something we'll continue to watch as we head throughout the remainder of the morning. So, Kevin, again, as this line tracks from west to east, not a guarantee everybody will be dealing with a strong to severe thunderstorm. So like you said, not here to scare anybody, but certainly the potential things could turn nasty if we start to see these winds increase ahead of the actual line and start to see the threat for some of those damaging winds.
Well, one thing that we have asked is a watch going to be issued for our area? We know that the watch exists just off to our west. The latest statement from the Storm Prediction Center says, hey, we're not so sure that we're going to issue a watch any further east because it looks like this storm may start to collapse and weaken just a bit. We've put out messages to the National Weather Service. It's our belief that we still will have an impact even further east of this current tornado watch that we have out. And for that reason, we've asked, well, we probably need to get in contact with the Storm Prediction Center to get their thinking on that. Right now, as meteorologists, we're all still thinking that this has great potential to produce at least some damaging winds in the western portion of our viewing area from Litchfield to Elizabethtown up to Radcliffe. I'll go over to Brian Good and ask Brian, have you heard any more from the Weather Service with our question, are they going to issue a watch further to the east?
Yeah, that's a good question. They're on a conference call right now. The Weather Service office is with the Storm Prediction Center, which, by the way, is in Norman, Oklahoma. Those folks are the ones that issue the watches. The Weather Service office off of the Gene Snyder at Smyrna Road are the ones that issue the warnings. That's the important part. We're going to be keeping an eye here on the watch situation. Let me check here in the chat one more time. Nothing else has been said so far about it. So we'll let you know. Obviously, as soon as one is issued, it'll pop up at the bottom of the screen. But the warnings is what we're going to be concerned about. And you brought up a good point, Kevin. As meteorologists, we can tell that this is going to be a high wind threat, and we're going to watch it very carefully, watch or not, as it moves through.
Okay, that looks good. And Lauren, one more. You have something else before we go back?
We just had a severe thunderstorm warning just push out just to the east of the Vincennes area. So starting to approach our northern counties, just to the northern tier. That does include the Sandy Hook area into Washington. Again, not including us here in the viewing area, but certainly, Kevin, a good indication that these storms still have a lot of life left in them as we head throughout the remainder of the morning.
Okay, well, it's getting close. We know that we have programming to offer you here on Wave 3. We're going to get you back to that. We did want to give you an extended weather report to let you know our latest thinking. Should that watch be issued, we will have that immediately at the bottom of the screen and all of our social networks and on wave3.com. We would encourage you to keep it tuned to Wave 3 through the overnight hours. You've not missed any of your programming. We're going to get you right to the overnight shows here on Wave 3, and we'll be back with you as the weather warrants. Count on us here at Wave 3.